Okay, so now we're going to go over how to enter your clients or the survivors' interactions with healthcare and legal systems. So to get to that section while viewing my client, I want to click on here, medical criminal justice. And again, these are all optional. The incentive to entering it is you have more information on each person you're serving, their experience in dealing with healthcare and legal systems, and it can be helpful when doing systems advocacy. So this allows you to indicate if they were seen by a healthcare provider, whether or not they were treated for injuries. Sometimes they may go, but be made to wait and end up changing their mind and leaving. So that would be seen, but not treated. Seriousness of injury is simply whether they did or did not require hospitalization. If there were photos taken, and if yes, where are they? Whether it's police department, sometimes I think the providers themselves take photos and keep them. Type of healthcare provider, whether or not an evidence kit was used. Other problem, there are very few text fields in InfoNet, but this is one of them. I would use them. I would use this to enter whatever you think is helpful to know when viewing this client's record, or you think is helpful for one of your colleagues to know when viewing this record. I just want to caution that for this, or really any text field in InfoNet, just be careful that you're not entering anything that could be a risk to future harm. Suicide threat might not be a great example. Maybe I'll say this. Something along those lines. But you don't need to enter anything in here. It's optional. And then here are certain forms of violence your client may have experienced. This was used by the network recently to learn more about weapon use. So if your client experienced these forms of violence, I recommend checking whatever they experienced. And we did enter police and prosecution information on the offender, but this is about the client or the survivor's experience. So you can indicate if they reported to police, what date they did that, if they had an interview by a patrol officer, detective, or a state's attorney. If there was a victim witness program at the state's attorney's office and they had help there, you could also check that. Whether or not a trial was scheduled. If there is a trial, you can indicate whether it's a bench or a jury. If the victim witness advocate participated in providing services. And then here are court appearances. Many of you may go to court with your client whenever they have court dates. So this just allows you to document the dates of the appearance. And the only other data point is whether or not there was a continuance. And we enter which side initiated that continuance. So if the defense initiated it, you would enter that. If it was on the state's attorney's side, you would enter prosecution. Or if there was progress in the case and there wasn't a continuance, you could indicate that. This was requested, I would say, about 10 years ago. And it was because providers wanted to do advocacy about how often their clients have to go to court. And this allows them to say things like, our clients had to go to court over 40 times during a 12-month period, or something like that, can speak powerfully to those professionals in the criminal justice system. So that is the point of collecting this data. And then your order of protection. I think many of you, if not all of you, do enter order of protection data. So we'll enter one of these. You can enter whether the originally sought order was granted or denied, the forum, whether it was civil or criminal, the county, the type, the date the order was filed, and then the issue date, assuming it was issued. If it's vacated, you can enter the vacate date here, and then the expiration date. So let's see, we'll say this is an emergency, 3 weeks. We'll say the 27th. Here is a comments text field. You can type in anything you find helpful here. What I see it used for most commonly is the remedies that are attached to this order. I know of one provider that actually enters the name of the judge because this provider was seeing a pattern of OPs being denied among different judges and wanted to keep track of that information. That's public information, so there's nothing wrong with that. Or other conditions about this order that you would find helpful to keep in their InfoNet record. I'm going to leave that blank for now, but those are just some ideas for you for how you can use it. And then activities. So one common thing a mistake I see is if this order is later extended from an emergency to a plenary, you wouldn't want to add a new order of protection. You'd want to add an activity to this existing order. So this is my emergency OP. And let's say 3 weeks after it was issued, I'm helping this client extend this OP to a plenary order. So for the activity, I'm going to select emergency to plenary, the date, and then the new expiration date. I'm going to say 5/27/2026. So now it's not going to double count this OP. It's going to say this is an OP that was originally issued as an emergency and then later extended to a plenary order.